Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Mess. So today I'm gonna have a fun, exciting, and informative video for you guys today. Because if you missed my video last week, I was telling you that retro gaming preservation and video game preservation in general was taking absolutely massive loss with the news that Myrient was shutting down their servers at the end of March. And in the comments I realized a lot of you had no idea that Myrient as a website actually existed. It was one of those things that seemed to fly under the radar for a ton of people, but I said in the video it's absolutely like the Library of Alexandria when it comes to video game preservation. We're talking about the fact that this site has things that no other site has, some of the deepest of deep cuts out there, games that barely ever existed, and you can find them and enjoy them, play them, research them, and even patch them for ROM hacks that come out. And having that loss being announced and telling people that by the end of March this site would no longer actually exist was an absolute disappointment. But I am here to tell you that people are trying to save the archive right now. It is an ongoing project, and that will be the back half of the video. But again, I need to preface this because not everyone watched the first video. But right now, retro gaming is making an absolutely massive comeback with a lot of people. I get more views on retro news than I ever did before, and I get a lot of comments, people talking about the fact that they're rediscovering retro gaming for the first time or getting back into gaming when they haven't actually played a ton. And I think a lot of it is just the fact that modern gaming, while there are some definite hits out there, really hasn't been doing it for a lot of people this generation. And with a lot of the hardware and part shortages, people look towards these older games to be able to still have fun without absolutely having to have a massively powerful PC. Because the reality is almost every single retro game can be run on something described as a rotten potato with a couple different tendrils coming out of the side. And when we talk about Myrient, we're not just talking about games that you can remember playing back in the day or some of those top 25 games of all time lists you're going to see for every single console. We're talking about some of the rarest and most esoteric things you can possibly find on the internet and stuff that I definitely utilize on a regular basis. Because that is the thing, one day you're going to hear about a game you've never heard about before, it's going to be a deep cut, a hidden gem, and it's going to be one of those things that's just not going to show up many places whatsoever. Because preserving retro gaming and making sure all these games are playable for all time into the future is absolutely a massive thing we need to do. And as far as why this closed, I'll go over that in just a bit, but if you want to skip to the new news, it's right around 4:30 because I understand this is something that I'm actually just retreading so people understand why this is happening. But basically, it's a confluence of a bunch of different reasons. It is a cost situation where AI is pushing the data hosting, and the actual hosting of the website costs over $6,000 a month. It's also the fact that there are a lot of different payload managers out there that were created, some that are actually being charged for, that are overwhelming the site, and just basically a bunch of other things. And I know a lot of people asked about whether or not this could be crowdfunded to stay online. I really don't think that is the right direction to travel in, because you'd have to maintain over a $6,000 a month crowdfund to be able to keep Myrient on the internet. I really appreciate that people wanted to vote for their wallets. I definitely do that too when I want to preserve or save things, but the reality is this cost is just going to keep getting higher and higher, and as I said in the original video, people selling access to something that is free is absolutely massively greasy in all of the worst ways. And that really is the thing. It's so hard to have good things in the world because somebody sees them and realizes, hey, I can actually make a couple dollars off something that I didn't do whatsoever. And that was just one of the massive disappointing things about Myrient going offline at the end of March. A lot of this was just because people abused it and decided they could make money where they shouldn't. And trust me, it's one of those things. This site is absolutely useful. I will have a video later this week, but one of my favorite Lupin the Third games, the Pyramid game on Sega Saturn, got an English translation, and as I've been talking about Mr. FPGA for some years now, I've been telling people that this is absolutely a hidden gem. It is a ton of fun, but unfortunately, it's something that you can't understand the story unless you read and speak Japanese. But that is not the case anymore. It's 100% translated, and while that isn't the topic of this video, the reality is, if you want to try to find a copy of this game, it's not going to be out there on the internet in that many places. It could be on archive.org, but it's definitely on Myrient, and that's the first site I actually go to check so I can patch the game. And before you ask, yes, I absolutely own a copy of it. The joke is I always say you have to bring your own copy to the table for ROM hacks, but the reality is I have so much crap in my house that I have a copy of this. I've owned it for years, so it's totally fine for me to do so. But it's not like I'm going to rip the disk and go do the files myself. But the good news is, and if you skipped over the first part of the video, we're into the basically new content here. Minerva Archive is a project that is working on preserving the entirety of the Myrient file asset library to be able to host it again in the future in methodologies which will be a lot cheaper to maintain. And this is something that's actively going on, and you can participate in yourself with a special script to be able to actually get the content of the site saved. Because trust me again when I say, we're not just talking about trying to go online and find a copy of something like Super Mario World. You could do that everywhere. Hell, there's so many copies of that game out there. You might find a cartridge sitting on the sidewalk as you walk down the street. And I only say that because once I actually did see a really beat up copy of Super Mario World on the street in Chicago. I was very confused. I would have kept it, but honestly this thing was absolutely destroyed. But again, there's so many incredibly rare games out there that you might need copies for, and as I said in the first video, a lot of times, especially with the old Japanese PC stuff, you may end up in a situation where one of the discs has trouble reading. I have definitely restored some discs from these dumps, actually writing to them so I can have a complete copy, and then keep that original disc inside the box. And you will see here, as of the time of the recording, Minerva Archive has 70 active volunteers that are actually downloading contents from this site, and that number is going to change depending on how many people are on there. But basically the entire goal of this project is to use decentralized volunteers with a script to be able to actually get each and every individual file saved, archived, and then basically preserved for later usage. And the nice thing about this is decentralizing it. We already have all of our PCs, we already own the hard drives that we actually have sitting around in our systems, so it's the reality of the situation is this isn't going to cost anybody any extra money. If we decentralize the downloading and uploading of these assets, then you're only going to have to worry about the storage space on the back end of things, because basically we're just using spare hard drive space, or I say we, the developers of this project, I say we as the community doing it. This is something that is going to be very easy to do, it's just going to take time and a lot of volunteers. Because you will see here in the how to help section, there is a Discord server which currently isn't accepting new members because they're being inundated, but definitely check those links. You install Python 3.10 plus, and then you grab the worker script, and that'll just basically start preserving the contents of the site to your hard drives, and it is intelligent. It's going to know what's been saved and what hasn't been saved, and you'll see here 117.9 thousand files have been archived, 2.73 terabytes have been saved, and there is still a massive amount to go. But again, if you have a spare hard drive sitting around and you want to help, this is definitely something that is going to be important. Because if you think about it this way, I've got a ton of extra hard drives in my closet, stuff that I've had archived different work for years, and people can go out and save Myrient, and Minerva Archive can live a new life. And before you say, why are you publicizing this, it might not be a good thing. The project wants volunteers, so talking about this is going to be important for the longevity of actually succeeding, of being able to actually get all of this stuff maintained, saved, and then available again into the future. Because the number one thing about video game preservation is we need to do it. It needs to be preserved and accessible for everyone for it to actually be successful. And you'll see here again, there is even a leaderboard, so if you feel like getting a little bit of bragging rights in the retro gaming community, you can go ahead and decide that you want to hit that top spot. You'll see right now, Compiling Entropy is in the lead with 244.1 gigabytes actually saved from the Myrient archive. And there is even a list of all the different failures, because sometimes these downloads will fail in progress, so definitely keep track of that for sure. But this is an amazing project and an amazing approach, decentralizing all of the different preservation, because it's not like one person is sitting around trying to save over 370 terabytes of data. There's 300 and some odd people on the leaderboard right now trying to save as much of that data as they can so that it can be recompiled into the future into a new resource. What that resource is going to look like, I'm not quite sure. It could be any number of things, but now that people know what the issues with Myrient were, they can be avoided in the future. And again, trust me when I say a lot of this stuff is definite deep cuts. All of the different 3DO M2 arcade redumps I did for redump when I actually had a Plextor drive that was working. These are one-to-one, bit-to-bit accurate dumps of some of the rarest arcade discs around, and before that we had MAME dumps and CHDs, and those definitely work. But for the 100% preservation purist out there, having those games dumped one-to-one, definitely something that is important. I'm not tooting my own horn because the drive died and I never bought another one and finished doing it, but it kind of reminds me that I should probably actually look into that and try to do it again in the future. But it's one of those things, every time something like this happens, the community absolutely rallies around the idea and decides that they can do something to make sure that this lives a longer life for everybody out there, and that's exactly what Minerva Archive is doing. So if you do want to get involved, you will see a link in the description below, and there is a Discord link as well, but honestly, right now that is not active, so if you're listening to it, give it a shot. You may find some success, you may not. But it seems like actual Myrient is going to live on into the future, maybe under a different name, but all of the contents of the website are currently being saved, and that is amazing. Hope you enjoyed the video, hope you enjoyed the good news, but I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.